Today, I'm going to see if I can give these works a new life and see if I can get rid of them.
So last night, I posted the pictures to my social media accounts to see if my audience had any suggestions for me, and here's what they came up with. Swans with swords and armor, fairies, and the creature from the Black Lagoon.
When you talk about making a creative income, everyone's situation is different. So if that's not really your thing, this series can still be helpful artistically. But in this video, we are going to finish the last two paintings, and I'll finally tell you how much they sold for. For the medium-sized painting, I chose Piccolo and Goku driving, submitted by Steven Adams. This is another franchise that I used to love drawing when I was younger, and I remember this scene being so different from your typical DBZ episode, pitting the strongest warriors in the universe against the dastardly driver's license test, or face cooking their own meals threatened by Goku's wife, taking the characters out of their element and becoming more of a sitcom. For the last and largest painting, I figured with such a large canvas, I would try to cram a bunch of suggestions into one crazy scene. I started with the swans with swords and armor, suggested by Pat Day, and then the steampunk ship, suggested by the one and only John Hancock, Godzilla, suggested by Heather Horner, and I'm not sure how to explain it, but I was getting frustrated and just wasn't feeling where this was going. Everything in me told me I need to do the bees. So I started doodling, and I was still able to incorporate Mothman, suggested by John Hancock, and a kaiju fight, suggested by Pat Day. In the corner, we have a monster hunter bee, and then I grounded the rest of the scene with an old man feeding the swans, while two younger bees disturb the peace that seemed to have vanished amongst instant chaos. Now that the outlines are finally finished, I can transfer those over to my computer and then project them onto the Thrift art and then trace the outlines in pencil. But first, I need to take these out of their frames. Now that I have the outlines ready, I start using acrylic paint to bring these characters to life. As I mentioned, part of this project is to get rid of these paintings, and I figured that could be really helpful to those struggling with ways to make a creative income. This is a pretty simple route. You just have to put in the work on your creative skills in getting things done. The more you work on those two things, the more likely you are to create something profitable and increase the value of your work as you progress through your journey. Pricing your work is subjective to how much time you put in, the materials you use, the current value where these projects typically make sales, and the exclusivity of the years you put in behind your artist name. The things that make you, you. Value the rarity of what you have to provide, because even though I mentioned that there are billions of artists taking this route, these specific paintings could have only happened through these odd circumstances. You won't find these anywhere else. And the last thing I want to talk about in this series is how to market your work. I personally know some folks that are struggling to make the creative life happen. Marketing your work, like anything else, takes failing a lot. But eventually you find things that work. The way you want to speak to your audience and what you stand for becomes much clearer the more you put in the reps. Don't get discouraged about telling people you make your money creatively, especially if it's feeding you. So just start with what you know about selling. I start with uploading progress pics of paintings, and then I let people know it's available when I post the final. Sometimes I'll cover trending subjects or things I know my audience will like, but I've been building an audience for my work since 2011, which was only possible by starting, even if it means making mistakes along the way. So here are the last two paintings that we came up with for this project. I really like how this series came out, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Since we're on the subject of mistakes, here are a few things that I learned about this process that could save you time if you're trying it yourself. My first mistake was not taking the art out of the frames before taking the photos. This made tracing the projected outlines much harder. My second mistake that made it hard to project the outlines was leaving the Thrift image in my digital design. I thought this would help me line up the work, but you could achieve the same thing with just your outlines. My third mistake was using a pencil to create the outlines. After handling them and moving them around to complete the video series, it was so hard to see the pencil outlines when I was filming with lighting on. If you're not recording your process, you might not have this problem, but you can avoid this altogether by using a white pencil or paint marker. The fourth mistake was not using acrylic gesso or something to prepare the surfaces. The gloss on each of the prints made it incredibly hard to get the acrylic paint to stick. The red paint especially had a hard time smoothing out, although I've never tried gesso on paper, so that's just a theory I have in hindsight. And the fifth mistake, I wish I would have taken my time and not rushed the designing process. Some of these compositions could have been stronger, but it is worth finding ways to complete the projects so you can move on. Okay, so let's recap. I bought the paintings and then they sat around for a really long time. I took photos of them and I posted them online to see if my audience could give me suggestions of things that I could put into them. I opened them up, painted on them, cleaned up the frames, sealed them back up, and now that the paintings are all finished, I think I'm ready to put them online and see if I can get rid of them. And if that doesn't work, I have a few other ideas. I made a few posts on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. I made posts one day where each painting was in its own post describing the series and availability. The next day, I put all the final photos in a single post together. And this time, I took the approach of selling the paintings so I could clean out my studio for the new year. I try to space out my posts, especially selling posts, because people start to get tired of that quickly. While the posts were up, I started tagging and reaching out to old clients and followers who I know at the least might like the artwork and get it circulating. Because if they don't sell locally or to my current fan base, each piece brings in different followers based on sharing and engagement. And people who like these fandoms might reach out. From here, I organized a list of local businesses that I could imagine hanging specific pieces and prepared to visit them in person, which was the original plan.
before we all came down with the flu. I lost my voice and couldn't do much for about 2 weeks. And I called it a wrap on the filming portion of this video. But from the beginning of this series, I kept up with editing my daily footage. I started editing 3 separate videos at once, dividing the series by 2 paintings at a time, while teaching what I know about art and creativity. Once I had the first 2 episodes exported, I created short-form versions for each painting, and scheduled those after their respective long-form episodes came out. This got more eyes on the paintings, and I actually got a lot of followers and subscribers from doing it this way. Something unexpected happened on TikTok as well. Someone asked to buy the Kermit painting. They followed me on Insta after, and we carried out the sale there. And there's something else I've been holding out on. I sold 2 of these paintings before they were even finished. I posted them on Instagram, and the person that saw both of those posts, she bought both of them. I sold the Mario painting for $50, and then I sold the Dragon Ball Z painting for $250. So we've already made our money back. Okay, so last minute tip here. When sending these out and people make purchases, I like to put little stickers and other things that I have to give away in there. But also, if you don't have like bags and stuff to put your artwork in, and like there's like local supporters, a grocery bag will do just fine. So I spent $36.98 on the paintings, not counting, I guess, the gas to get to the thrift stores. And then I sold the paintings altogether for $370. So I made a profit of $333.02. Of course, the shipping and stickers are extra cost to me, but I just try to do as much as I can to let people know how grateful I am. I left out with free shipping to California, and someone else picked up the other 2 paintings. I did put an insane amount of work and time into the promoting, production, and editing of the videos and the paintings themselves that you don't really see. But I wanted to document things to show you how to do this yourself. You don't have to film the process and start a YouTube channel, but it definitely helps your cause as a creative person in more ways than one. You never know what is going to work, and you have to try everything. Literally everything, because otherwise, did you really try to get rid of them? And sometimes things don't go as planned, and you get sick, and you just gotta step back and manage what you can. Things will sell if they're meant to. Make voiceovers, get your followers involved, and if you're having fun, chances are people will recognize that. From here, the remaining paintings are still available, and I'll be adding them to my inventory because I am wiped out on this series, and I am moving on to the next. I want to say thank you to everyone who got involved and supported this project. I consider this a victory, and I hope I was able to teach you a few things along the way. Stay creative, folks.
Oh, dude, that beautiful detail.
DIY, brother. Woo! Makes it look even better when you're done.